Hi, I am Elizabeth of Lore, transmitting from my portal. Welcome. Today, when I'm filming this, is January 24th, 2023, which makes it the 2-year anniversary of the passing of my Tia Alice out of this particular dimension. She was my oldest aunt, and hard to describe. Quite a character, very lively. Her passing out of this dimension was strange, very sudden and unexpected, and just odd to think of someone who is so vibrant as no longer being here. It's also the 2-year anniversary of when I stopped using IV opioids, which is so interesting to me because it doesn't feel like it's been 2 years. In fact, it doesn't feel like I ever really used them at all. It feels like that was an entirely different lifetime, an entirely different person. Even who I was a year ago feels like a different person. Because my energy in the past 2 years has gone through a million, 1,000, 2, and then a billion energy upgrades, all the numbers all at once. I mean, look, I live in a portal. What do you expect? But really, it does. I have the memories of being that person who was so desperate to put heroin or fentanyl into my body that I would shoot up on a public bus or on the side of the road or some dirty public bathroom or whatever. I have those memories, but they feel like a hazy, distant dream. Just something that didn't really happen. Something that doesn't really belong to me. And it's because it doesn't. Nothing does, right? Nothing really belongs to us. Everything is just an energy. But what I want to talk about quickly today is the energy of addiction, right? Because that's what that was. I was in an energy of addiction. And for many, many years, it was about 10 years that I was addicted to opioids, I wasn't always using them in that time period. I wasn't always using IV opioids. A lot of times I was using some prescription opioid like methadone or Suboxone to help me not use IV opioids. But I was still addicted. I still wanted it. It was still something that if placed in front of me I would use. It was still something that was my main coping mechanism anytime something distressful happened. Stressful, or distressing. Distressful. Because I was still in the energy of addiction. And the reason I was in the energy of addiction was because I had no idea that it was just an energy, and that if I just changed my energy, it wouldn't be a thing for me anymore. That I would be someone entirely new, someone entirely different, someone whose vibration was no longer a match for opioids. Because the reality is that it's not. I have no desire to use them, and it's not because I think about how hard it was physically to get through the withdrawals and get off of them. It's not because I think about all the consequences that happen because of criminalization or addiction or whatnot. It's because I think about the way heroin made me feel, which at the time I found very, very pleasurable, and it makes me shudder. I don't want to feel that way. It's not a vibrational match for me anymore. It just isn't. So there's no temptation whatsoever. Who is tempted to do something that they don't have any desire to do at all? The reason that those substances are so tempting, even when you no longer have the physical dependency, and even when you've undergone serious consequences, is because they're a vibrational match to your energy, and therefore they make you feel good. Things that are a vibrational match to your energy make you feel good. That is why being extremely sad can make you feel good. That is why sometimes we will sit around and ruminate on terrible things, and it will give us a form of pleasure because it's a vibrational match to the frequency we're in. But if you change your frequency, then it no longer is, and it no longer feels good. But they don't teach you that in most places. In conventional addiction models, they either tell you that you have to abstain from all drugs, and that if you take any substance at all, you will be triggered to use again, and you will relapse, and you will die. By the way, I've died so many times. It's just a trick of the light. In fact, I was a journalist for several years, and it was published in a lot of publications. One of them that I wrote for a lot was Vice, and my most widely circulated article that I am aware of, the one that was translated into different languages and circulated across Vice's different outlets and all that, was one about me overdosing 9 times. And after I wrote and published that article, I overdosed a few more times. So yes, I've died many times, and I'm still here to tell it. So that is also not that big of a deal. But anyway, I digress. My point is that the energy of addiction is just that, it's an energy. And keeping yourself in the energy where you're constantly going to meetings where you talk about your addiction and you talk about all the bad things that happen, and you reminisce with other people dealing with addiction, and you think about, oh, I'm not going to use today, I'm not going to use today, this is how many days it's been since I used. I only know it's the 2-year anniversary of the last time I used because it's also the day that my aunt died. I don't actually keep track of it. It just happens to be something that I'm going to remember because of that. The other model, the other conventional model, is the medical model, where they say it's a brain disorder, and they say that it's a chronic relapsing disease. And they say that you have to, or that many people have to use medications like methadone and Suboxone to manage it, and that many people have to use those medications for their entire lives to manage it. And if they don't use those medications, they still have to use other medical-based interventions to help. And it's going to be something that they struggle with for their entire lives. And some people who follow the medical model will admit that maybe you can get to a point where you're not really dealing with this on a daily basis, but they still call it a chronic relapsing condition or disease, and say that, it's something that's relapsing and chronic. So that means ongoing, forever, and not curable. And I would say that if you had to choose between those two models, abstinence is not very helpful for many people. And the medical model at least helps people manage their lives a little better. So I'll probably pick that one, I guess. Well, the other one could be a sacred poison route. And sacred poison sometimes leads us in directions that we need to go. So I don't know. But what I want to really say is that neither is correct. What we need to be doing is teaching people to change their energy. Now, a great way to do that is psychedelics. So yes, take more drugs. But I really mean it. Mushrooms, LSD, and my beloved ayahuasca are beautiful ways of changing your vibration. I've also, for opioids in particular, heard wonderful things about iboga, although I don't personally feel called to that medicine. There's also mescaline, peyote, wachuma. There's so many of these medicines. There's also yoga, which can move trauma energy out of the body. Most people who are addicted to drugs are traumatized people. That's also an energy. I also had PTSD and was told that I would never be cured of that. I don't have PTSD anymore either. So yoga can move it out of the body. Meditation, sitting and meditation has been one of the most beautiful gifts that I've been brought to by ayahuasca. And of course I knew about meditation before ayahuasca, but I met an amazing and extremely inspirational woman at an ayahuasca ceremony who made me realize in a profound way how effective meditation is in helping you reach the ayahuasca state without the ayahuasca, and that has completely changed my life. That was in the summer. And it helps you detach from the energy that's in you, right? Because that is just an energy, it's just an experience we're having. And if you can just sit with it and think, I am not this mind, I am not this body, I am not this experience, and just allow yourself to really process, just repeat that and process that idea, you begin to realize that you are something more eternal than the temporary fleeting mind, the temporary fleeting body, the temporary fleeting experience, the temporary fleeting lifetime. There's so much more that we are. And knowing that, realizing that, really holding that realization within you, that alone changes your energy. And then you no longer need things like drugs to cope. I rarely ever take drugs, substances anymore. I don't use alcohol. I have no desire to. I'll occasionally work with something like mushrooms or ketamine, and usually with mushrooms, it's in small doses, occasionally larger doses. It's been quite a while since I did a large dose of mushrooms. I did a large dose of ketamine fairly recently, and I have no intention of using it again for many, 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 many months, because I use it simply as a portal to help me engage with my energy, to help me change my energy if I feel that I need something big to help me change it. And that's rare that I need something like that. But there used to be a time when I used drugs every single day. Even before I became addicted to heroin, I was using drugs, if not every day, quite a lot. The idea that I am someone who says no to drugs is crazy to the person I used to be. But and it's not this willful, moralistic thing where I'm judging myself and saying I shouldn't be using drugs. I don't judge people who use drugs. It's just that I don't want them. I don't need them. They don't vibe with my frequency anymore. I can have visions through meditation if I want to have visions. I can portal myself to other dimensions in my portal if I choose, which I do choose very often. I can go dance at an ecstatic dance to change my energy if I'm feeling low or I'm feeling like something needs to be moved out of me. And you can do this too. And this is far more effective medicine than anything that they prescribe for addiction, than anything that they will tell you at a 12-step group, than anything that anyone who follows a conventional treatment model will tell you. You need to change your energy. However, if you feel like that's something you can't access, then don't judge yourself. Because here's another, I'm going to end this little video with a story. And here it is. 6 years before I stopped using, so about 8 years ago or so, I had been on methadone, and I'd gotten off methadone, and I was still in withdrawals from it a month later. And still wanting to use, and still sometimes using. And I was in Colorado finishing grad school. And it was only there for a month, so I had subletted someone's room. It was the last month of my program, my MFA program. And I was so sick. I was feeling so terrible. I would go to my classes, but I was feeling so terrible. I didn't even want to go to the storage unit where I had a mattress to get a bed. So I was sleeping on the floor of this subletted apartment, and it was cold, even though it was summer. Because heat rises, and I was in withdrawal, so it was also just cold from that. And I was miserable, and I was like listening to ASMR videos to just try to give myself any kind of good feeling, and just constantly thinking about doing dope. And eventually I did it. And one night I had a dream. And in this dream, it was a dream that didn't feel like a dream. It was a dream that felt like more than a dream. And in this dream, I was visited by a group of beings. And I remember there was one in particular who was standing in the middle, who stood out more than there were others behind this one. There was one in particular who was standing in the middle, who was talking to me. And I remember all of them looked like humanoid, but their faces and bodies were like a very dark blue, like kind of like this, but even darker. And they had the shape of stars all over them, like silver stars all over them. Like the cut, like the shape, not the celestial body, but the shape of a star. So they looked like a cutout of a depiction of the sky, right? Like what someone would draw of the sky. And I began to think of them as the sky people. I had known of these beings, sort of my guides, before that, but I began to call them that. No relation to Avatar, by the way. The better sky people than the Avatar sky people. And this being was speaking to me. I don't remember everything he said, but I remember that they were trying to tell me, all of them, that they were helping me, and that they were there for me, and that they were the guides that I had been speaking with for, my whole life. And I looked at them. I looked at this one in particular who was at the forefront, and I said, "Can you take care of this addiction? Because it's really terrible, and I hate being addicted to heroin." And they told me, "Yes, we're working on it. Be patient. Give us time." And of course, it felt very dire to me to get off of it. I didn't want to be patient, but I had no choice because no matter what I tried, no matter what treatment I tried, no matter how long I tried getting off of it, I'd always end up using it. Something would happen and I'd always get triggered and I'd always use again. And then 2021 came around and I decided to stop using and to write a book that I've been wanting to write for not my whole life, but for a large part of my life. And the most remarkable thing about that was on the day that I stopped using, my aunt died, my dear Alice. And in the past, something like that would have been an excuse for me to use. But somehow this time I didn't. It stuck. And the more and more time that passed, the more and more I went into 2021, the more and more strange things happened. Things like I was pulled out of my body and had visions of being this blue alien who was growing a tree out of my... It wasn't a vision, actually. It was an experience. I felt myself as a blue alien growing a tree out of my body and all sorts of other things. And it was just taken from me. It was just taken away. Just like that. Just like they promised 6 years earlier. And then I drank ayahuasca. And after that, my entire life changed. So that was what I wanted to end it with, was that sometimes we don't have control over the energies in our life. People are always telling me, congratulations for, getting over addiction. Congratulations for getting over PTSD. And thank you, I appreciate that. They tell me I should be proud of myself. I'm proud of myself for listening to the lessons that I was gifted by ayahuasca and by other teachers in my life, because sometimes people are given those lessons and don't listen. So I'm proud of myself for that, but also I'm not, because I'm not proud of myself, because these things were just energies and they were there and then they were not. They were just removed from me. It was just the time. So if there are many things you can do to change your energy, and I recommend doing those things and persisting with them. But if you feel like it's not working, just wait. Just sit with it. It's an energy. It will pass. We don't have as much control as we believe we do. And that is a beautiful thing. So just let everything come to you. Let it be. Let it be. That's all. The day I'm posting this, the 25th, is my abuelita's birthday. She's no longer in this dimension either. She lived to the very young age of 100 and then left. So happy birthday to my abuelita. I miss you. I miss dear Alice. But I hope you're having a lovely time in whatever dimension you're in now. And thank you all for listening.